Video, I'm actually following the advice of a shrink in keeping my trying to raise my melatonin levels at night. Um, about the current state of politics and political history, you see, this is the thing where people like Bob and co don't realize my head knowledge and my insight. Our last Conservative Prime Minister was Margaret Thatcher, for sure. For sure. I think that Rishi Sunak could have been, but he bottled it when his Interior Minister, Home Secretary, said, look, you've got to deal with the illegal immigration. He didn't, because you can't go making unfunded tax cuts because then you risk the wrath of the markets. And I think that now the Liz Truss has taken the Conservative Party down with her. But Margaret Thatcher was the last Prime Minister who attacked the left, only she failed, sadly. She took on the Miners' Union and won. She took on the Labour Party nationally and won. But she lost to these creepy socialists who entered local government. She also made, in my opinion, a big mistake in introducing a national curriculum, because with a national curriculum gave the left a chance to put their poison into the British education system. She also abolished economics as a subject de facto, or her ministers did, because she was fed up with the way economists told her to run the economy. She was known as a fiscal conservative. She was known as a monetarist, and monetarism was it's not something I want to go into, but she believed in a balanced budget. And ironically, the Clinton administration ran a balanced budget, and so you should. The problem is that our next Prime Minister, John Major, he basically ran a deficit. Now, the trouble is, if you keep running a deficit under 5% of GDP, 5 plus 5 plus 5 plus 5 leads to the fact we've now got 100% national debt to GDP and rising. We also have a government that believes it can tax its way out of trouble. Well, I mean, ask Mr. Laffer of the famous Laffer curve. We now have a situation where the economic illiteracy of probably 70 to 80% of Brits is now exposed. Because now you're gonna slam me for this. I actually do have a tiny bit, like about that much, sympathy for Keir Starmer. I'll fix it. I mean, he got into number 10. And the two most worried people in Britain after he was elected were him and Reeves, because they started to say, oh, there's a 20 billion black hole. I believe them. The Tories are, they're snakes in the grass. Because, we had Boris Johnson, aided and abetted by Rishi Sunak, his finance minister, who basically sat there and, printed money in the form of quantitative easing. That's what it is. It's printing money. You'll tell me, oh, no, it's not printing money. Yes, it is. To fund the COVID situation, where to pay for hospitality. We were literally paying people to do nothing. Well, if you pay people to do nothing, you will get inflation. That's why we have got inflation, one of the reasons anyway. It's not just the disruptions, the supply chain caused by the various wars that have kicked off. So we haven't had a proper Conservative government since the fall of Thatcher, who was stabbed in the back by the Wets in her own party. They basically regathered under Heseltine. I think the poll tax was probably a mistake. Most people acknowledge that. She probably moved a bit too fast on that one. But then she left local government in the hands of leftists. And these leftists have now pushed their leftist agenda. They got into power in full in 1997, where basically Blair, the Manchurian candidate, completely tore this country apart. He started to introduce stealth taxes. He started to allow tax as a percentage of GDP to rise. Now, as Bob's understanding of GDP is actually reasonable. GDP is the total value of your national output. Now you'll tell me it's also national income and national expenditure. That's true. But it is essentially the value of your nation's output measured in monetary terms. So for everything we produce and the value of it, we have got a national debt, and we are paying about £100 billion a year just to service that debt. We need to bring it down. Now, the coalition and so-called Conservative government tried to basically say, okay, we'll grow our way out of the debt, which was what Blair's phony growth basically did for a while. It lasted until 2008. We tried to service that debt. We are a country now exposed to an international shock, which is coming. That international shock could come as soon as this autumn. We are already in autumn. And trust me, we are definitely in autumn. And what is now happening is that the successive governments have essentially followed each other. You see, Blair said he was a fiscal conservative and wasn't. Now, for those people who start talking about the uni party, sounds a bit conspiracy theory. I think that's a bit far-fetched. You see, what's happening now is what Kemi Badenoch is saying is too little too late. No one trusts her. No one is listening to her. I feel a bit sorry for her as well, because she is now actually trying to bring the Conservative Party back to being proper conservatives. But now she's being swamped by Farage, who I don't trust either. Now, what Farage is doing is he is now pushing what the so-called populist agenda. He is essentially saying he's a conservative, whereas his economic plans are to, for instance, remove the 2-child benefit cap. Well, make your mind up, Nigel. You're either a fiscal conservative or you are not. If we were in 1925 and I was running around saying, well, look, I've been born in the wrong body. Oh, and by the way, I've got ADHD and autism. And by the way, blah, blah, blah. Oh, and please give me £1,000 a month. I mean, I'm actually saving the British taxpayer for sure I think my PIP would have been about £800 a month. Stuff like that. It's a non-means tested. Maybe I should just pop back on a visit, get my PIP, and then pop out. That's unsustainable. Yes, a society should look after its disabled people, but I can work. But what does the British government do? It regulates. We are now in a situation where we have so much regulation. And by the way, apparently Candid Lubna basically worked for Ofcom. We have so many offs. We have Ofcom, we have Ofsted, we have Ofwat, we have Ofgas. I mean, for heaven's sake, how many offs do you actually want? We need to say F off to the offs. It's ridiculous. After Brexit, the understanding between Cummings and Johnson, and this is well documented, and the reason why they fell out, is that Cummings wanted to go into government and he felt he had a mandate and probably did, which is why he's now reaching out to Farage to go in and sort out our civil service and sort out our central and local government and get rid of these people who literally do nothing. I mean, they sit around all day basically making judgments. I mean, I've had problems with social services. What they do is they see two people bickering and say, oh, we were exposing our child to that. Absolute rubbish. Now, when you actually leave UK, and this is where I'm going to go. I mean, I've covered economic history. What Britain essentially does is live in economic cloud cuckoo land. Whereas if you live in, say, a country like India, or even if you live in a country of the Middle East, they understand economics way better than we do. Indians understand that there is no welfare system. In fact, actually, as someone once famously said to me, he said, James, we have a welfare system. It's called the family. Think about that. We are heading for a financial catastrophe. We are heading for a situation where one morning Keir Starmer or whatever monster basically follows him is going to be on the TV, say that there is going to be a digital currency, digital ID. You can't do anything without it. They're going to try going down the digital currency, in a way to keep the economy going. Because really what we're doing at the moment, and actually this was Robert Peston did a video on this on the BBC, so you can't call this a conspiracy theory. Essentially what Britain is doing is relying on capital inflow from around the world to basically finance its economy. So the way this channel goes from now on is I would like to have sort of like debate, discussion on the issues facing Britain, on actually how to tackle it. It's not just about stopping boats, and it's not just like the little pricks in UKIP going, oh, we're going to make people go in person to claim their benefits. Well, if you did that, you would basically have to raise taxes to do that. The welfare system is in a state, it's how to fix it. And you have to fix it, I think it's going to be either shock therapy from a government coming in with a mandate to do so, or it's going to be the shock of an economic collapse. I don't want to be in Britain when there's an economic collapse. I really don't. And I think it could come as soon as this autumn. The fact is, our economy is running on fresh air. Our economy is running on Asian savers believing that when they're putting their money into the British financial system, that it's actually stable. We could wake up one morning a very poor country. Anyway, I've given you a brief economic history of Britain. To recap, Mrs. Thatcher introduced the idea of sound finances, of having a low tax, low debt, low deficit economy. And she was by and large successful, except the last few years of her administration, she probably allowed the economy to overheat. And by allowing the economy to overheat, that generated inflation. In hindsight, what she could have done would have been to have privatized and had a sovereign fund and not to give us quite as much money in tax cuts that she did. Like I say, she had a long-term mandate, and that mandate was ended by her own party. If she had faced off Kinnock in 92, she may well have pulled it off. But anyway, I would like to have discussions on this channel on, our economic legacy, on where we go forward. It's not just about the boats. The boats are a tiny symptom of our problem. England is dying. And this, last-minute opportunity to go overseas fills me with great sadness. People will say, well, why didn't you stay in Britain and fight? Well, I was fighting while I was there. I was fighting anti-Semitism. I was fighting extremism on the left. I was fighting extremism on the right. We need a stable, strong party to emerge to deal with the huge challenges this country faces. And if that party can emerge, and if that party can get somewhere, then I would be first in the queue to come back and to implement those changes. But we cannot carry on with bread and circuses. I will explain that in another video.